My name is Jacques. I have next to me Kerry and Jean. We're going to do a presentation about implementing client virtualization. So in this class, I already talked about virtual machine, and I hope you learn a lot about virtual machine because this is a new technology used by many industry. So instead of having many different servers in a building, you can have one or two servers and you virtualize the server. You can have as many servers you want running in one server. And we talk about desktop virtualization too, where you can create a whole desktop PC inside one single PC. And I want to remind you again, in order to practice virtualization, the host computer must meet all the hardware requirements. That means you need to have a CPU that supports virtualization. It is recommended that you have a multi-core CPU. You need to have a computer that have a lot of memory because although we talk about virtual machine, all the virtual machine, they really use the hardware component of the host computer. So we talk about all of this. But today we're going to talk about more advanced virtualization, such as software virtualization. And we're going to talk about cloud computing. Cloud computing has become very popular because of virtualization. I want you to understand cloud computing because if you work for small or large business, you're going to have to use some type of cloud. A lot of company now in organization, they outsource a portion of their IT. Cloud computing allows organization to outsource a portion of their IT infrastructure. It is also a system that rely on shared hardware, shared management, shared application, and it is very popular, the fact that you might need a software for one project. After this project, you don't need that software. Why should you buy that software when you can pay that software as you go, only for the time you use it? This is the type of advantage cloud computing offers, because a project is something you do and maybe you will not have to do it for a long time. So if you buy the software, you own the software, but if you use it to the cloud, you can use it only when you need it. So not only you have the opportunity to use the application as you need it, but also you will have free storage. So this is very important to understand all type of service you can get from the cloud. So there are so many talk about cloud. Many people are talking about cloud. So the government have to come forward and say, this is what type of characteristic you're looking for in service to consider that service as cloud. We're going to talk about all of this. So the objective of this lesson today, I want you to know about cloud computing, know about all the benefits of cloud computing, identify the common cloud models, virtual desktop, understanding cloud-based network controller, the cloud service options such as infrastructure as a service, software as a service, platform as a service. So this is what I want you to understand in the lesson. And of course, you have to do your reading and you have to do some practice. So this is the way we do it at Marapentech. It is not only taking the class online, it's a hybrid class. When time becomes convenient is whether we place you on an internship or you come to the lab for your practical training, because it's not going to be only online. This is an hybrid class. There are so many types of cloud because everybody now doing online business, they said we are in the cloud business. For that reason, the government said those are the characteristics you're going to look at to make sure that you know you are dealing with cloud computing. So the NIST definition lists 5 essential characteristics of cloud computing: on-demand self-service, broad network access, resource pooling, rapid elasticity or expansion, and measured service. So those are the 5 characteristics. And also NIST lists 3 model: software, platform, and infrastructure, and 4 deployment models, which is private, community, public, and hybrid. Those are the characteristics that you have to look for.
I have a question. What is NIST, and what gives them the authority to make this definition?
NIST is National Institute of Standard Technology. They give guidance. They make study, they make analysis, and they give guidance, so there is no confusion. So based on those characteristics, there will be not any confusion.
Is it a government agency?
And IST is not really a government agency, but overseen by the government. This is a scientific community. So the National Institute of Standard Technology give this characteristic as a guidance to define what is a cloud computing and how the cloud computing industry is going to perform. So they have those 5 characteristics: on-demand self-service. That means you can have the on-demand self-service. This is the type of service when you have a contract with the cloud, but this is your technician that will go to set up your server. This is your technician that will go to set up your email. So that cloud computing company will not provide any service for you. The only service is full access to the cloud computing. NIST define those 5 characteristics: on-demand self-service, broad network access, resource pooling, rapid elasticity or expansion, and measured resource. I want you to understand those terms, because on-demand self-service, when you have that service, you need to have technician that will access the network and set up your server, set up your email, install your software, do everything that you want to do, because the only service they will offer you is access to the cloud. And they have broad network access. A lot of companies use infrastructure as a service. You will have broad access to all the resources. And they have resource pooling, when you can pull the resources from the network and you pay as needed. And rapid elasticity or expansion is a good characteristic. As I said, if for a reason your company need more capacity, you can get that capacity very quick, because it takes a few seconds for the cloud computing company to increase your capacity. And the good thing about it, if you do not need that capacity, you can downgrade and they will do that. You will not have to pay the same amount of money. So the same organization, NIST, they also list 3 types of model. So if you're dealing with cloud computing, you will have to focus on those 3 models: software as a service, platform as a service, or infrastructure as a service. Those are the 3 models according to NIST. And also they declare 4 deployment models, which is private, community, public, and hybrid. So you need to become very familiar with those terms and those type of service and those characteristics. As I said earlier, on-demand self-service is when an end user can independently maintain and set up computing capabilities such as server setting, network storage as they need it. So a lot of the responsibility on this type of service will be on your IT personnel. Broad network access refers to resources hosted in a private cloud network that are available for access from a wide range of devices. So that means cell phone and tablet. And the good thing about it is not only you can use many type of device, but location also, you can use them for many different locations. Resource pooling is an IT term used in cloud computing environment to describe an organization that serves multiple clients in a multi-tenant model. You can have many different group of people, many different organization, and all of them are using the same resources. And you find that a lot, especially Google is a good explanation for this, because and the government using Google a lot for their email. I'm using Google for my email. A lot of people are using Google, the same cloud computing, and OneDrive is the same. If you use OneDrive, this is the same thing. Everybody can use it. And the good thing about it, everybody will have their own autonomy, and nobody can get access to anybody's business. This is really, really good. And regardless where you are and whatever the location you have, they can deliver the service to you. And cloud service option, this model are referred to something as a service. Any cloud computing is referred as a service. It's like you can have infrastructure as a service, storage as a service, network as a service, platform or software as a service. So you're going to see things like IaaS, infrastructure as a service. This is an organization that provides IT solutions such as server, load balancer, and storage area network. You pay only for the resource you use. If you don't use it, even software, even the CPU, some cloud company charge you for as much you use in the CPU. So if you have a cloud service and the CPU sit down doing nothing because you are not using it, you're not going to pay for it. You pay only for whatever the CPU use. If you have software as a service and you use a software only 1 week and you never use it again, you're not going to pay because you pay as you use it. So this is a very important service that you have to consider for, especially for small business that doesn't have a lot of money to invest to have their own infrastructure. Software as a service, this service allows organizations to use application from a provider website. Instead of purchasing the application, like I said before, you can just use it online, such as Google Suite. The Google Suite, a lot of people don't know that. If you have an organization, you're not going to use them for free. And when you pay your money, you get more. Like this class you are taking, it's a part of the Google Suite. When you use Drive, it's part of the Google Suite. And also, most of the application you can use in business, but they are more, when you pay for it, you can get more options. So they have Google for education, they have Google for government. Actually, Google have a cloud that you cannot use, it's only government that can use it. And they have all kinds of service for whatever field you are. You pay more money if you have Google for education. So this is very important to understand so you can advise your company, because as an IT person, you can decide you're going to do only consulting work. But if you don't know those services that exist over there, how are you going to help organization? How are you going to help your client? This is the reason why you have to pay attention and understand the different services that are existing in the market. This one is a new territory, very new technology, but which is very interesting, is virtual desktop infrastructure. Virtual desktop infrastructure refers to using virtual machine as a means of provisioning corporate desktop. Those same virtual machine that I taught you a few weeks ago how to create them. So you can create them in a cloud computing environment and use them as corporate desktop. Suppose you work for a superstore. A lot of people don't understand if those superstores have the largest IT department. When they're looking for jobs, they don't even pay attention to those. But when you look at places like Walmart, like Target, they have giant IT department, because all of those things that you see inside a store, there's an IT technician that oversees them. When you go to a place, sometimes you get upset because there are a lot of machines, they cannot give you the price. It's because they don't have a good IT. Because the IT personnel have to make sure, if I go to the store, I don't have to call a manager, I don't have to call anybody. They have those tin machines they put in every location. You just go, put the product underneath on a little scanner and scan it to give you the price. Those are what they call tin clients. They are connected to a virtual machine. As I said, when you have a virtual machine, that virtual machine comes with a virtual network interface card, and you can create a network. So those tin client computer, they are connected to a virtual machine. A lot of corporate organizations, what they do, they use virtual desktop, and those virtual desktop are connected to a tin client for input and output for whatever they want to do. So the tin machine boot on the virtual machine, store in a server. All the applications are processed to the virtual machine, not to the tin client, because the tin client doesn't have the capacity to do that. And those virtual machine, you create them on a server. Instead of having 20 desktop on the floor, that will take a lot of place and that will use a lot of energy. All you do is to put those tin machines, you attach them in many different locations in the store, and they just take your input and transfer it to the virtual machine, which is a good use of VM. So virtual desktop infrastructure is one a cloud computing company can offer you that service. They provision corporate with virtual desktop. So this is a very, very important technology, and sometimes you will find yourself dealing with that technology, and that will be not new to you, the fact that you already know about it. And as I said before, all virtual machine will come with a virtual network interface card, but this tin client, in order to connect to the virtual machine network or to the network of the corporation or the organization, they must have a physical network card. So they will have a physical network card that will connect to that allows them to connect to the virtual machine. And also they have cloud-based application. Those are the application running from the cloud. This is the reason why you can have applications such as Office 365 in your small portable phone. You know, in order to install Office 365, you need to have at least 7 to 8 gigabytes available. There is no smartphone that will have this type of storage drive. Some applications require that you have at least 2 gig of RAM. But when you are running that same small application in your smartphone, certainly your smartphone does not have space for this. But once you are running an application from the cloud, this type of physical requirement are eliminated. You don't need that anymore, because The only thing you need your device for is to connect to the cloud. When you install that application in your device, you will install only enough for your device to recognize that this is a resource that is available. The same way Microsoft has the Hyper-V, Microsoft developed an app named AppV. You can install that application to allow you to access application and use those applications in the cloud. So instead of virtualizing the whole desktop, you virtualize only the application, and the application that you have in the cloud is streaming to the small device that you have or to your virtual desktop. So it's streaming. When you are using it, you're using as much you need to do what you are doing. If you want to use another application in the suite, like suppose I'm using Word all the time and one day I decide I'm going to use Publisher, automatically I click on Publisher. I need it. Publisher will be downloaded to my smartphone or to my portable device. Those are very important technology, and this is what help a lot of organizations using a lot of software that they cannot afford. Instead of having a server that you have to go into maintain all the time, to upgrade, to make sure that it's protected against antivirus, you don't even have enough staff to monitor your server around the clock. But when you use it from the cloud, there are staff available to monitor the cloud around the clock. You don't have resources, you don't have capacity for that. For that reason, it's best to use your email from Google, because Google has the capacity, the staff, and the competency to monitor your email around the clock, and your email is not at a lot of risk. I already talked about email application. Most organizations set up their little email server. Now with the cloud, they don't have to do that anymore. You can have the most protected email to the cloud. You still have complete control over your email, and you have your email is more protected because the cloud company has the staff and the capacity to make sure that your email is protected against hackers, against malware. So the best thing to do, if you don't have the capacity, you don't have the resources, contact Gmail, contact Yahoo. Do not ask your employee to go to create a Yahoo email. Do not ask your employees to go to create a Gmail. This is not the type of service I'm talking about, free service. I'm talking about a service you pay where your company is going to have its own domain name, like Jacques at marapentech.org. This is hosted by Gmail, but this is a private cloud where I have all the control over it. Although it costs a lot of money, but it will cost more money to have my own email server, and I don't have the resource to monitor my email server 24 hours like Google can do. If you have everything stored in the cloud, no matter what happened in your building, the next day you can start functioning because everything is on the cloud. You can access your database, you can access all of your resources right there on the cloud. So as a security feature, I would recommend that everybody have a storage in the cloud to store all your important documents. So at this point, so you have to be aware of cloud file storage. This is a good service, and this is all the cloud can offer you. We have virtual application streaming. This is what I already talked about it. This is when the application is streaming from a server and you can access the server to use it. Container virtualization is like virtualization. Those are virtual machine that is running in top of an operating system. And we talk a lot about it when we were talking about virtual machine. We don't have to go over this, but I want you to read about container-based virtualization. It is almost the same as a virtual machine. The only difference that I want you to notice, containers cannot run guest OS of different type. So in one single machine, you can have a virtual machine that is running Windows operating system. You can have one that is running Linux. You can have one that is running Unix from different type of operating system. But you cannot do that in container-based virtualization. Cloud-based network controller, sometimes your organization use so many type of component, so many type of platform, so many type of service, probably sometimes service from different cloud. And now management of such a complicated network can be also complicated. So this is the time when you go to the cloud and you use the cloud-based network controller, which is a management-based software where you can register all your different components, and that software will manage everything for you. This is the end of the presentation. I hope you're going to do your reading and go over the presentation many times and try to understand. What I want you to understand first is the characteristics set by NIST. So you know what are the characteristics you're looking for, and based on the characteristic you know what type of service you can get from the cloud computing. Such as elasticity, you can increase your network, make it scalable anytime and in a short amount of time, which is a good thing, especially for if you're working on retail. You never know when you're going to have a surge of customer. This is a great thing to think about. On demand, like you don't have to use the software all the time and pay for the service all the time. You pay the service only for the time you need it. Those are the characteristics that are very important, and I want to pay attention. The models, like platform as a service, software as a service, those models are very important. I want you to understand the three models. And the fourth type of deployment, I want you to pay attention to that. So you're going to pay attention to the characteristic of the cloud computing, the three models, and the four type of deployments. And I want you to pay attention to application-based cloud, which is very important. I want you to pay attention to the network management. Always remember, if you have any question, we have a lot of instructors lined up to answer your question. Kerry is monitoring the online class all day, and I have Brian, I have other instructor that is ready, and myself, I'm there to answer all your questions. And I like you to ask your question public instead of private. Yes, there are questions, there are personal questions you can ask private, but any question regarding the presentation, regarding the class, I want you to go and do it publicly. This is where we stop. See you next time for the next presentation. Thank you.